Konnichiwa, minasan! It's Kireix, the geeky uber otaku girl. Hi you guys, it's Kireix. So I thought I'd do some video on a little project I'm doing today. I am going to be modding magnets into the horn of my horn and head of my Special Order Heliot because the horn just won't stay on. I've tried using silly putty, I've tried using silicone, different types of things, and it just doesn't work well. The well for the horn is a lot bigger than on my original monthly doll Heliot, so the horn is supposed to stay on like this one's, but it just doesn't. So he's always sad looking because he's missing his horn, but we'll fix that. So yeah, basically I'm just going to Dremel in here and add a magnet, and then Dremel on the inside of this and add a magnet, and the painting on the end will cover up. I'm going to try to use some pretty thin magnets so it won't go very far into the clear part of the horn, but yeah. Okay, so I've got my Heliot head off the body. I took the eyes out so the eyes nor the silicone putty gets gross, dirty, damaged, or anything like that. But he's already got a magnet up here, so I'm not sure how the polarity of that will mess with how I put in this. I have a set system for magnets for all of my dolls, so they can all share parts if I want. So I'm really peculiar about how I place magnets. And then these are the magnets that I plan on trying to use. So they're just little tiny ones. They came with some horns that I got from League World that I'm not gonna use for that purpose, so I figured I'd use them for this. And they're the really strong nickel, nickel hydride, whatever magnets. Same ones that are used in pretty much all the other BJD stuff. There is going to be some dremeling that's going to be needed to be done. There's a little bump here for lining up the horn, and there's a little matching well here, but it just doesn't work well. And you don't want to permanently affix the horn, because if you want to travel with the doll, then you could run into problems. So I figured I would just do magnets and be done with it. So I'm going to grab one of my base head that I base all of my magnets off of, so I know which polarity to use. Oh yeah, before I start dremeling too, I want to add that please use protection. This is probably a bit overkill for some people, but I would prefer to not get cancer or anything, so I wear protection when I remember to for this. So yeah, wear protection, you guys. Resin dust is bad for your lungs. Okay, so now I have my head that I based everything off of, which I base off of my main doll, Lilu. I modded a bunch of magnets into her head, and really thought about the polarity that I wanted and that type of thing. So I'm just going to take my magnets that I'm going to use and figure out what the central horn polarity is on her. So like that. To figure out what needs to go into this guy. So thumb side goes to resin, and these magnets are strong enough where you can tell what they'll do without having them actually stick together. So the magnet in the head needs to go this way, and the magnet for the horn needs to go that way. Hey guys, so after recording the magnet piece, I figured out an idea that some of you might like if figuring out polarization drives you absolutely batty. What you could do is mark the side that you want to go into the doll if you're doing like internal magnetizing, and then you can just put the magnet down and you don't have to worry about. Just remember, the plus goes into the doll, that type of thing. Just always be careful with Sharpie around your dolls, of course. And I haven't tried that, I just thought of it, but in my brain it sounds like it would work well, so that's another thing to try if you think that would be helpful. A lot of you guys are probably smarter than I am, and the polarization doesn't drive you crazy, but it drives me crazy. I'd like check like 6 times before putting a magnet in, because I hate taking magnets out. But anyway, back to the mod. The next thing, I have a really nice Dremel, and I've got a bunch of different bits, but this is a cutting bit. It's cylindrical, and it's just about the size of these magnets. Not quite big enough, so I'll have to go down and then do a little more out. But I kind of would rather it be a little smaller than too big. So, hey you guys, so I took the sand out of this section because dremeling is really loud, and I thought a narrative would be more helpful anyway. So I made sure I have a good steady hand on the head itself. My hand is steadied by the table down below, and then the Dremel, I've also got the edge of my arm holding the Dremel on the desk, so it's stabled as well, so I can try to be really accurate with where I Dremel in. Be really careful if you haven't Dremeled before. I was even, I've done lots of Dremeling, and I was even nervous about this particular mod because there really wasn't much room for error at all. If I had taken out a chunk of the rise part for his horn, it'd have been, terrible. But it worked out well in the end. Dremeling is pretty messy. You can see the bits of stuff flying up. You want to wear protection like I mentioned before, but also it's good to have a little handy vac around. Mine is priceless, and I will, be very sad when mine dies, but anyway, yeah. So there's the hole, and I did have to take a look and see how it measured up with my magnet, and I had to do some more dremeling, and I'm using a brush here to clean out all the resin dust so I can see, exactly what got dremeled. It's a very messy process. Yep, and here's testing the magnets. And they were hard to get out because of the polarization of the head cap magnet. And I found I needed to Dremel more, so we're going to Dremel more. Be really careful when you turn on your Dremel because it kind of jerks some, and so it's really easy for it to try to get out of your hands, and I've almost gotten nicked and taken off a chunk of my finger by Dremel one time. That was so scary. So I'd hate for that to happen to you guys. But yeah, there's some of the dremeling. Okay, so now it's time to put the magnet onto the horn. So I'm just going to put it into the end, and I want to try to go in as least far as possible. So what I'm going to do is line the magnet up here and trace a circle around it so I have a guide while I'm dremeling, because this is such kind of a delicate one-time sort of thing. So grab a pencil here. Try to center it. There. So now I've got, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but now I've got somewhat of a guide for dremeling. So, we'll grab our mask and our Dremel and Dremel away. So now we're dremeling some more again. This one is even more so delicate than the head itself, it has a lot less room of error. So for this one I wanted to make sure that I had my hand steadied like before, but I wanted to go all the way down as far as I needed, you know, depth-wise, and then slowly move the Dremel to where I made the hole a little bit bigger than the bit itself, because my magnet is a little bit bigger than the bit itself, and to match up the pencil markings that you saw me do in the previous clip. Another thing that I had to be careful of here was the resin heating up. Because of the friction of the bit on the resin, the horn actually did get a little bit warm, which I was, you know, expecting, but just be really careful of things that you're dremeling getting hot in your hand, not only for the integrity of the resin's sake, but also just, you know, your hand safety. Yeah, so I just Dremel more dust. I was wearing my mask, like I should have been, and like you should if you end up dremeling. And then brush to get the dust out so I can see how well things went, and then testing the magnet to see how flush it went. That went really well the first time, which is great. Doesn't always happen. And yeah, that's what it looks like, and then put some glue in and we're done. Okay, so now it's time for super gluing. Since I've dremeled my hole, I have my magnet, and I'm just going to re-verify my polarization, which that's correct. So my pointer finger side will go to the inside of the horn, so it will be oriented this way. The hardest part is keeping up with your polarization. So I just squirt a dot of super glue, a little mound of it, not too much, not too little. And I'm going to check one more time. Okay. And then we let it dry. That's it. It's in there, pretty flush, which is what the goal was. And so here's the end result. It's his magneted horn on him. It's at a pretty good orientation. It's straight. It's not cocked a funky angle, which is great. I was worried about that. And here's my non-magneted one. So I think I'll leave him be unless it becomes a problem. So it's been fine so far. But yeah, that's horn magnet modding.